Bearcat Blitz, taking you into the weekend here on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman. He's my co-host, Neil Meyer. I'm from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, and Neil is from the Front Office News, Rivals Cincinnati coverage site. Check them out there at thefrontofficenews.com and si.com/Cincinnati. Some fun stuff to get to on today's show. More commitments in the month of June. I think we're at the 11 commit mark this month. Over half of the entire Bearcats class has committed this month on the football side. Touch on that, including the first running back commitment in the class. And then we also have Football Power Index from ESPN. Where does it gauge the Bearcats to be this coming season? We'll assess that in the first half of the show, and then we'll close things out with a look at the expanding college basketball season. CBS Sports' Matt Norlander reported that the season is going to expand to 32 regular season games in the 2026-27 season. What does that mean for Cincinnati Bearcats basketball? We'll discuss that to close the show. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz. Stick with us through these messages. Back with you all here on Bearcat Blitz as we bring in Neil Meyer now. Neil, Cincinnati adds their 18th commitment in the 2026 football class on Thursday. No ranking for this player, but the first running back in the class. I would imagine he gets a 3-star ranking at least at some point in the next few months. That would be Cedric Kouimi, 18th commitment in the class, first running back to join the fold. And he's a 5'10", kind of 211-pound mauling running back, just run through brick walls of defenders left and right on his highlights. And he held 12 other offers from schools like North Carolina and UConn before picking the Bearcats, who are quickly approaching 20 commitments, Neil. They're up to 18 in the class, a class that, if my computer will load real quick here, there we go, is sitting firmly at 50 commits in the, or 50th in the 2020 class of 2026. I don't know if they factored, that is on 24/7 sports rankings. I don't know if they factored in Kouimi to the rankings just yet, but right there, hovering around 50th and increasing the ranking throughout this month. I think they started in the mid 60s. Now they're up to 50th after a 10 plus commitment month.
Yeah, absolutely, Russ, too. And it's worth noting that Cincinnati has only added one running back through the high school ranks under head coach Scott Satterfield since coming to Cincinnati. So it's safe to say Cincinnati has arguably found their running back within the 2026 class if
Because
history
that Ja'Cory
repeats
and Caffey is the only other one that you
Corian
recruited.
Caffey, and then they
Yeah.
had Zion Johnson last year. So if history repeats itself, this will be the only running back for Cincinnati adding within the 2026 ranks. But it's worth noting a lot of different things with Cedric Kouimi. Russ, you mentioned a 5'10", 210-pound running back who will just run right through you. In 9 games last year, he had 1,300 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. That says a lot about what kind of volume and what kind of runner he is and what he could bring to the table. He's not going to look through to kind of hit the home run ball, but he's going to be like that Corey Kiner-esque kind of running back where he's going to fight for those tough yards, right? And that's the kind of running back that Cincinnati and Scott Satterfield is looking for. Now, it's also a fun fact about Cedric Kouimi Russ is he attends Bullis High School in Maryland, and that is a high school that's been garnering a lot of attention over the recent months because of another blazing track athlete out there in Quincy Wilson. So I'm sure that being the same age just about as Quincy Wilson, having that ability to kind of see what he's able to do. I'm sure he runs track as well, Cedric Kouimi does. So I'm sure those two spend a lot of time together. But overall, it's interesting to see that the Bullis High School in Maryland continues to put out D1 athletes at multiple different sports and across multiple different levels.
Good stuff for the Bearcats and continuing to chug along in the class of 2026. We'll see if Guimi can be an impact player and grow in the system. UC has not really featured, they have not, right, Neil? They're yet to really play any of the running backs that Scott Satterfield has recruited.
Correct, because Ja'Cory Caffey redshirted last year.
Right.
So
And Zion Johnson this year is
is a true
just
freshman.
true
So
freshman, obviously, so he hasn't been on the field. And then I don't really think, was there, I can look real quick. I don't think there was a hard commit in the kind of crazy whirlwind 2023 class. So yeah, it's interesting how they've leaned on Corey Kiner, obviously, and then they have leaned on Evan Pryor, and now passing the baton to another veteran running back transfer into Wee Walker coming over from Wisconsin and Oklahoma. Yeah, they had Manny Covey, who could, Neil, I think, be the first recruited Bearcat in the Scott Satterfield era to make an impact on the running back ranks. I would be surprised if we don't see him get maybe 5 to 7 carries a game, 4 to 5 carries a game once you average it all out at the end of the season. Manny Covey's he's steadily increased his ability to impact the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be very surprising if he doesn't even find his way into the special teams
Yeah,
games
some
as
kind of
well.
impact
Because
somewhere he should.
Manny Covey's speed's legit. I think everyone saw that versus what was that, Oklahoma State last year? That game Corey went down. Manny stepped in and kind of willed them throughout the fourth quarter. He had what, 5 carries, I think, and he took 2 of them to the house. I think one was a 70-yard touchdown. You know the legit blazing speed that Manny Covey brings. So it's going to be interesting to see what that running back room kind of looks like this year. Obviously, everybody knows your starters are going to be Evan and Tawi. Now, what order that is, nobody really knows until fall camp. But those are going to be your two guys who are going to get majority of the carries. But Manny Covey could be a game changer, right? He could step in and be that Evan Pryor kind of role that we saw last year behind Corey Kiner. So it's going to be interesting. Does Manny Covey come in, get 5 to 7 carries, and if he rips one off, how big of an impact could it make for this team in this season? So it's going to be interesting to see that running back room. But Russ, I'm pretty excited about that running back room. I don't know if you saw it early this morning of the video of Tawi Walker in the weight room yesterday. That dude is a physical, strong running back, and I'm excited for the running game this year. Right, that's Cincinnati's bread and butter under Scott Satterfield, but it's going to be interesting to see how do those guys adjust with the new offensive line blocking in front of them.
That's a perfect transition as we continue Bearcat Blitz here with your host Russ Heltman and Neil Meyer into the ESPN FPI projections. Now, it is set up, Neil, for Cincinnati to at least break the losing streak consecutive seasons that they had over the past two stints. It's all there for them to ultimately at least get to a bowl game. The computers from ESPN agree with that after Cincinnati retained their defensive coordinator, their offensive coordinator, their quarterbacks coach, their strength coach. Everybody's largely been the same on that coaching staff and the highest points and the most important levels for the past 2 years. And Cincinnati has ensuingly been gauged to have a 66.7% chance to get to bowl eligibility, according to ESPN. They are ranked 53rd nationally on the Football Power Index. And I believe, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11th in the Big 12, behind the likes of Kansas State, Arizona State, Kansas, and BYU, ranked at the top of the Big 12 conference. All in all, holding a 2.8% chance to win the Big 12 and get back to the college football playoff for the second time this decade. What a story that would be if they're able to pull that off in a Cinderella run this season, like Arizona State did last year. And I bring up those odds because of Arizona State last year, Neil, and because in this conference, if you have strong health, continuity, a capable quarterback, which we know Brendan Sorsby is. He's at least, I mean, at worst, you could argue he's a top 35 quarterback. I think at best, you could argue he's a top 25 passer overall quarterback in the college football ranks. If you have all those things in the mix in a conference that does not have a top 20 team, according to ESPN's FPI, then you can win this thing out of nowhere and really kind of flip your entire program trajectory around very quickly. We're not saying that's necessarily going to happen, but on the low end, it should at least be a 6+ win season and continue growth in that aspect of 3 wins, 5 wins, bowl eligibility. And then next year, if you do get that bowl eligibility and you have a third season, hopefully with Brendan Sorsby, then you're really going to be eyeing 8, 9, 10, 11 wins as your goal. And with 10 or 11 wins, that's going to bring you to Arlington in the first weekend of December.
Yeah, absolutely. And Russ, that's a great turning point because I was thinking the same thing, right? When we were talking about the football power index, Arizona State's a prime example of being ranked low in the FBI and coming in there and going and playing for a college football playoff, right?
I mean, they
So
almost beat Texas. They were almost right there in the mix for the final, 6 teams, final 4 teams?
So it's very interesting to see how do things come together, and it all comes down to the quarterback play, like you mentioned. Brendan Sorsby is a top 35 quarterback within the country, and now that you have year two under Scott Satterfield with Pete Thomas, you have all your offensive coordinators back, you have all your returners back. It is going to be a
Get your
huge
center
opportunity.
back, the guy who's going to be calling all the line calls. That's huge too.
It's going to be huge for Brendan Sorsby this year, right? And there's a chance for him not only to take that next step in year two, but there's a chance for him to take a huge leap in year two. And if he does that, Cincinnati's right back in the mix. And I firmly believe that. And the reason I say that, Russ, and we're talking about the bowl game, right? With the 66% and the FBI, there is no reason Cincinnati should be sitting at less than 2-1 or even 3-0 heading into the conference slate, right? Nebraska, we all know that's going to be your toss-up matchup. A neutral site game at 9 p.m. on a Thursday versus a Big Ten opponent. That's going to be your tough non-conference game. But you look down, this schedule benefits Cincinnati in many ways. You have Iowa State at home, you have UCF at home, Oklahoma State on the road, you have Baylor at home. Like there is a lot of opportunities here for Cincinnati. And Russ, looking down at the schedule, they avoid all the different time zones this year. If you
Yeah.
think about it, you have Kansas week 4, and then you have Oklahoma State week 6, and then Utah in week 8. That's the only three road games where you're thinking, okay, there's a multi-hour time difference, and that is huge. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond, but there is a lot of hope that this team ends that streak and gets back to a bowl game this year, and there's a reason why. Many big time outlets have projected Cincinnati to finish within the middle pack of the Big 12 this season and be bowl eligible.
That's the goal. Should get 6 wins, and hopefully the team can get 6 wins before the start of November. And if that happens, go on a little run. You never know where you might stand at the end of the Big 12 schedule and possibly punching that ticket. We'll see. I would be shocked a little bit if Cincinnati made the Big 12 championship game, but at this point, it would be shocking to me if from Neil, what we've seen from this staff, what we've seen from these players over the past 2 years, the culture change that we've seen from year one to year two, now in year three, it's just to me, unless there's a catastrophic injury, knock on wood, it would just be shocking to me, given where they're practicing now, where they're able to recover now in that new Sheikley IPF and performance facility. Like I just would be shocked if they don't win 6 games this fall. That is where we'll stand in terms of not necessarily giving our full season long projections just yet. We'll save that for probably about a month and a half from now, 6, 7 weeks from now, right before the kickoff against Nebraska, where that could that could flip them right into the bowl mix right away. If you flip a game where you're a 6.5 touchdown underdog into a win, then you could start off 3-0 in the non-conference slate, and you're already halfway to bowl eligibility with 75% of your schedule still left to play. We all know how that went last year, though. 5-game losing streak to end the year, just needing one win to get to that bowl eligible status. Flipping the script here, we'll take a quick break and then get to the basketball side of things where we have a change to the NCAA schedule for all 350 plus D1 teams in the 2026-27 season. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz. Winding down Bearcat Blitz here on the Believe Network with a discussion about the overarching college basketball schedule in general. Neil, it's expanding to 32 games, according to CBS Sports' Matt Norlander, reporting on Wednesday that the competition committee at NCAA was expanding the season to 32 regular season games. And Neil, this is just really exciting for me. We get a firm, hard, even amount of games. I always thought it was weird that for like 20 plus years they played 31 games, just a random odd number there. It's going to help make multi-team events easier to schedule. It's going to help make marquee matchups easier to schedule in the non-conference portion of things. And we all know how Wes Miller's treated his non-conference slate in the first 4 to 5 years. he's playing all the big guys, all the big boys around the region. And this is just another opportunity to play those big time teams around the region. Maybe Neil work in a non-conference game in the middle of the conference slate, like interleague play, kind of in Major League Baseball. Even though now it's not really, they've kind of just expanded interleague play tremendously, which is kind of the trend of all sports. They just keep expanding things, but that's an option for teams now to kind of more realistically go after. And I just love this. Like I know it's one more game that we got to work, that we got to cover, but for a guy who loves basketball, loves covering basketball the most of any sport I cover, this is another chance to see the Bearcats hopefully at home and another chance to get us maybe one step closer, Neil, to that tri-state tournament. Butler, Indiana, Ohio State, Dayton, Xavier, just all those teams, Bowling Green, anybody, all those teams from around the area, getting them in one Holiday S tournament, trying it one time, I think would be really cool. And this may be another way to open that door a little bit ever so slightly. But of course, you have to get all the coaches on board for all that. But all in all, I think a great thing for the sport of college basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you too, Russ. And it's great to kind of see now you get that extra game, right? And when you're in a Big 12, when you're in the Big 12, essentially, you know that conference slate is going to be just about hell, being brutally honest, especially with how good this conference is. I mean, heck, Russ, last night was a prime, the last two nights have been prime example. I don't think you probably put it into consideration yet if you thought much about it, but JT and I were actually talking the other night and we're like, damn, we saw five, six guys within the top 40 picks go in the NBA draft the other night. That's the Big
Yeah.
12. That's the kind of caliber players you're going to see night in and night out. That's college basketball. And now you have another opportunity where you might have an opportunity to play an interleague game within a Big 12, or you might have another opportunity to get you another home and home in versus a Louisville, a Kentucky, an Ohio State, Northern Kentucky, whatever it might be here in the area. Butler, Georgetown even is close. Like there are so many different options that Cincinnati can do. And I'm really excited now, whether that's going to be a neutral site matchup, whether that's going to be a home and home, or you're just adding an away game, whatever it might be. We know that Cincinnati Bearcat fans are going to come out, they're going to show out, and they're going to support the basketball program. And that's what's exciting, right? I know we sit there where our media seats are for the basketball games, and we see the fans come in, the same fans over and over, no matter the outcome, no matter what's going on. They're going to come out and they're going to support. They're going to be into the game. They're going to talk to you. They're going to ask you some things. That's what you want. That's Cincinnati basketball. Now it's going to be exciting to see what might come out of it, but I am pretty fired up to see you go from 31 to 32 games. Gives you an extra opportunity to play a non-conference game, which I think is huge, Russ, because you, like you mentioned, Wes Miller has never shied away from competition in the non-conference slate, and he's not doing it again this year. Look at the non-conference slate Cincinnati is putting together right now. I think that's huge. You get an extra game. Big 12 tried the 20 game conference slate. It didn't work. It did not work. It
It's
was
too much.
too much. It was a mess. You're going back and forth different time zones. They're going back to 18, which I think is perfect. So you go back to 18, that gets you 14 non-conference games potentially. I think that's huge, right? You always hear strength of schedule, what you do in the non-conference slate. If the NC tournament talks continue where they're still discussing maybe expansion, which frankly I hope they don't expand the NCAA tournament, but with those discussions going on too, that extra game also plays in the factor if that is something that breaks even down the road.
Yeah. NCAA tournament expansion. I don't know how I feel, Neil. It's like
I'm not
on
for
one
it.
hand,
Not for it.
I'm right there with you. I want the competition to keep its integrity where it is right now at 68 teams. On the other hand, if they expanded, that's dollar bills for you and me, my man. That is coverage that we will never miss out on. I would be shocked if we ever missed out. I mean, it would have to take like I talked about with the football scenario, catastrophic injuries at multiple spots for the amount of money that's getting invested in the Cincinnati basketball. Like that's the only scenario I could see where Cincinnati would end up missing the NCAA tournament. I mean, they almost made it this past year. They were right on the bubble with 19 wins. I mean, that's going to be the floor in my eyes for this program moving forward, just considering how much money they are investing in each roster every single year. So we would get to cover the NCAA tournament, I would imagine, almost every single year if they
Which
expanded. So
that would be a plus too, but then you also got to think about it. kids nowadays, Russ, will never understand the excitement of
It would
March
lose its luster. It would totally lose its luster. It would
It
just
totally would, because they would never understand the excitement of if you're in like a high school or a middle school, you walk into class and teachers go, "Yeah, well, March Madness on, let's watch some hoops." Like they're never going to get that luster back to it, especially if you expand it. And then it's well, like you said, the media aspect is going to be huge. I'm just now thinking about that since you mentioned it. It could be beneficial. New media rights deal, all that. You know how the
I mean, it would
money
be great
aspect.
for us. We would have
It
plenty.
would be
We'd
great.
have more content to cover. So I'd never scoff at that, especially in the some of the dog days portions of the summer where you're scrounging for stuff to write about or talk about. So I would be all for the Bearcats consistently making the NCAA tournament and never having to worry about that and being able to because it's nice, Neil. Like if we have that in the expansion, you could pretty much guarantee like, all right, if I can't schedule any trips or commit to anything in the first or last couple of weeks of March because I know that the Bearcats are most likely going to be in the tournament with an expanded field, but not expanded yet, not expanding at least for this coming season. The Bearcats are going to have to make their way into that normally sized field. And we're making our way into the end of a normally sized podcast here. Neil Meyer, Russ Eltman, great to be with you all on this episode of Bearcat Blitz. We'll be back at it to start early next week on Tuesday, back in your podcast feeds and your YouTube feeds, continuing the march towards Bearcats football fall camp in just a little less than 1 month from now. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. Have a great weekend, everybody.